this monument at this courthouse. I told a story back then about bringing a group of children here to perform at this same courthouse in a community event where the Huntsville Children's Choir sang and Ballet Folklorico danced, and our gospel choir also participated. But before, when all the community was walking around this courthouse, my kids stumbled upon that monument over there. And they were ashamed to perform. And that wounded me. And so from that point forward, I made a decision that I would lift my voice for them. Because I don't believe that anyone should walk to this courthouse and feel ashamed. No one should be reminded, like I am when I come here, that our ancestors bled and died in this county. You know, it's a practice these days to talk about, say their names. So one of the names that I want to say, a family's name, the Cabanis family, their blood deserves this monument to be removed. And one of the things that we have said time and again, I'll just hold it. One of the things that we have said time and again is that for many of us, it really feels like it's been a long time. And there is a whole lot of pressure that has been on a whole lot of us. But many of us are tired of just surviving and surviving just to die. We want to live and live a life more abundantly right in this community. And one of the first things that can be done to help the healing of this community is to remove this monument and to offer an apology to the many people and the many lives that have lost justice in this place. So with that, I want to take the opportunity to say that there are statements that have been presented by several organizations.
To be asked by George Oliver to participate in this effort, and I also want to thank my colleagues from Sam Houston State University, Zach Mons, Kristen Enzi, Zach Dolashaw, Aaron Hyams. I see Aaron Owens back there as well. Our department is committed to racial justice in Walker County. Many of us are working on these subjects, and today being Juneteenth, I read in the paper, or was notified yesterday by James Patton, the former head of the Walker County Historical Commission, that one of the historical markers that was established just a few months ago to recognize George Washington Grant and Grant's Colony, which my colleague and friend Zach Dolashaw worked with his class on, has been pulled up. A truck came and wrapped a chain around it and pulled it up. That is the power of historical markers, of memory, of telling the stories that have been forgotten. You know, Donald Trump said that he made Juneteenth famous, and all of you, of course, as Texans know that is not true. Juneteenth is a celebration on June 19th of the news of the end of slavery and freedom for African Americans in Texas being delivered in Galveston and spreading throughout Texas. Now, when we talk about Walker County itself, one of the important things, and I want to recognize my colleague who is not here, Bernadette Pruitt, who is one of the authorities, if not the authority, on African American history in Walker County in the greater East Texas region. Her mother is elderly and on oxygen. She couldn't be here today for that reason, but I want to acknowledge the work she's done. And one of the first things she told me when I moved to Walker County was that Walker County, and I don't know how many of you may know this, maybe many of you do, Walker County was a majority black county from 1860 to 1920. So for 60 years, through slavery, through Reconstruction, through the emergence of Jim Crow segregation, through the emergence of poll taxes and literacy tests and other means for denying the vote to African American people, the majority of people in Walker County were African American. They didn't get to participate in the democratic electoral process. They didn't get to choose. They didn't get to choose political candidates, and they were, frankly, not represented in office. In fact, the local, county, and state governments of Texas, as well as the national government, was designed to discriminate against them, and it did carry out discriminatory laws and voting restrictions, okay, and segregate them into areas like the Samuel Walker Houston School, rather than allowing them to go to integrated schools. Of course, as Mr. Oliver said, Reverend Oliver said, we've had lynchings in the county, and it wasn't just the Cabinets lynching. There was a lynching in 1878 of a young man who had gone with a white woman to Houston to be a couple. That was, of course, illegal under the miscegenation law of Texas, and he was lynched in Riverside, Texas in 1878. We'll be talking more about that later in a publication, but we also had the Cabinets lynching in 1918 that Mr. Reverend Oliver mentioned, in which a whole family was killed. And they were not killed by a ragtag mob of people from the grassroots. They were killed by law enforcement officials, including the Walker County Sheriff, the Huntsville Justice of the Peace, the Dodge Justice of the Peace. We documented these things.
My name is Kathleen Williams. I'm 16 years old and I'm a junior at Huntsville High School. And I started the online petition calling for the removal of the Confederate memorial on Courthouse Road. Within 24 hours, the petition had received over 1,000 signatures, and now, over a week later, it has over 2,500 signatures. I would like to thank everyone who has supported this cause and signed the petition. We hope the removal of this memorial will be symbolic of the positive changes to be brought forth in our community. Since posting the petition, many people have reached out to me sharing their concerns about the removal of this monument. One of the main concerns is that this is an attempt to erase history. I assure you that you have nothing to worry about. The purpose of placing this monument here was to change the way history was viewed and ensure that the evils of the Confederacy were celebrated by generations to come. History has been erased by questioning the validity of the struggles of Black Americans from the founding of our country to the present day. History is erased in our textbooks when we are taught that the Civil War wasn't really about slavery and that it was more complicated than that. They teach us that it was about states' rights and the economy, when in fact the Confederacy was founded for the sole purpose of states' rights to continue the practice of slavery. In doing this, textbooks have manipulated history to a version that is more palatable to white people to avoid acknowledging the sins of the past in order to work towards a more equitable future. The monument represents the aversion to repairing wrongs in our country, and in leaving it up, we continue to ignore the problems Black people have faced in America in the past and in the present. Another common argument I heard is that although what the Confederacy did was wrong, they died for something they believed in, and that should not be disrespected. The issue with that argument is that when you say that you are valuing the lives of murderers, slave owners, and the perpetrators of mass atrocities committed against Black Americans more than the lives of the innocent Black Americans whose lives, freedom, and agency were stripped away from them. In removing this monument, we hope to change our history to a more truthful version than what is told currently, where we admit to the crimes that have been committed in our country and in our county, and to the crimes still being committed today. With the removal of this monument, we as a community will vow to do better to protect the lives and well-being of citizens in our community of marginalized groups. Let this be the start of real change.
I'm Ollie Williams and Jules Williams III over the community activism And also we have the Vice President, Eli Bibbins, and I'm the President, Nia Imani Williams. And I've just prepared a statement. I'm going to speak for all of us today on who we are as a group, our values, our mission, and also a statement regarding the Confederate monument here on the downtown grounds. Black Lives Matter Huntsville, Texas is a nonpartisan, non-religious affiliated organization fueled by intersectionality and inclusivity. Our mission and purpose is to bring attention to the issues and systems of injustice, discrimination, and racism that have plagued this yet-to-be United States of America for years. We intend to foster community growth and change, educate the public on the issues that plague Black people in America, and hold the public accountable. We aim to cultivate interpersonal communication and relationships with an understanding that without conversation, change cannot be made. Change is hard and is often uncomfortable, maybe even painful to some, but is a necessary pain. Real growth takes time, effort, and perseverance. So understand this, our standing up is not merely a political statement. It is for our livelihood and the livelihood of this world and this country. So we ask that you listen with open minds and open hearts. Our stories, our pain, our history. This current climate of racial and social injustice can no longer be allowed to continue. And while we may not see the changes we seek within our lifetimes, our goal is to create a movement of sustaining change that solidifies the rights and well-being of future generations to come. With that being said, Black Lives Matter Huntsville, Texas stands in full support of the removal of the Confederate monument here in Huntsville, Texas, located on the grounds of the downtown courthouse. The public display of Confederate monuments only serves as a grim reminder of the dark history many Black Americans faced before, during, and after Civil War America, including the Jim Crow era. These monuments are in no form or fashion a statement of heritage or pride, unless you take pride in the Confederacy's prominent pro-slavery stance. Instead, these monuments stand in homage to the historic support of slavery, racism, discrimination, and hate. To ignore this fact, especially in 2020 America, is pure, unadulterated ignorance. The Confederacy is something, the history of the Confederacy is best for the schoolhouses, textbooks, museums. Although it is important for us to learn about it, we shouldn't glorify it or its leaders with monuments. Thank you.
Different moms, different dads, same agenda. Thank you guys. We won't be redundant. What these young people have said, I am so excited that they will carry Huntsville and Walker County and lead us to a different place. I'm from Huntsville, went to Huntsville High School, went to Sam Houston, left in 1977, came back in 2017, did not plan to be here, planned to move somewhere progressive like Austin, but anyway, I ran for election and now you've got me. The simple thing, thank you. The simple thing to that is that this is taxpayers' land and property.
Yes, yes it is.
So if that monument is allowed, I can come and put whatever monument I want also. So to be fair, to be consistent, you remove it. This is taxpayer property. We are doing our due diligence at the city to make sure that we are also honoring and respecting the citizens of Huntsville in our parks and any structures that we have. Thank you. But also including your information, encourage everyone. The Census 2020, the importance of it. It is valuable. Some people know and understand the power of it. Some people don't. So, thank you for being here. Thank you, Reverend Oliver. Thank you, group.
What was your
Collins, City Council at Large number 2. Thank you.
My name is Maury Montgomery, and I am City Council at Large, position 4. Maury, M-A-R-I, Montgomery, just like the county. As a matter of fact, my husband's second great-grandfather was the name for whom the county was named. And if you know Walker County, and I'm sure our historians know, was part of Montgomery County for a long time. Here's my point today, because so many things have been said, and just like Dee, I don't want to be redundant, but let me make something perfectly clear. I don't know how many of you caught the news yesterday, but there was not one Republican senator who was willing to say Black Lives Matter. Not one. They all said all lives matter. What's the subtext of that? Would they have been willing to say white lives matter? I would bet yes. But they won't say Black Lives Matter. What is the problem with that? It points to the schism. It points to division. It points to systemic racism. It points to all of those things that creates a lesser quality of life for our Black and brown brothers and sisters, like health care, like living conditions, like infrastructure, housing. I'm a real estate broker. Give me a break. If you don't see it, then you're asleep or you're blind. It is time for all of us to stand together with respect for each other, for our dignity, for who we are as people, for who we are as human beings. I am sick of people being treated like subhuman beings, and I will not have a monument on our public ground in the county where I am an elected official that glorifies people as chattel. I will not be silent until that is gone.
Yes, my name is Richard Harrison. I'm a native of Huntsville. Right there on that corner across the street in 1962 when I was 12 years old, I watched the protesters protest against the Raven Cafe, the Texan Cafe, and the black and white, colored and white signs in this very courthouse where justice is supposed to be administered. And it's been pretty much a lifelong struggle for me. I graduated in 1969 from Huntsville High School. I was the first class. They closed my school down in '68. I was the first class to go over to Huntsville High School. And that was a rude awakening. That was the very first time in my life that I'd ever been overlooked, spoken down to, and it was a awakening experience. And in 1963 also, my cousin John Patrick, he was the first student to be admitted up to San Luis State. And you can imagine the life threats that we received, telephone calls, drive-by, and all that. So I believe that this is one of the last symbols of the Confederacy that needs to be moved out. And it's time to make a change. And remember that on November 3rd, when voting times come around, we can make that change. And the census. And Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
I am the president of the local NAACP chapter here. And I just jotted down something brief, but I think it's to the point. If this city is going to heal and rid itself of racial and social injustice, a good starting point would be to remove every symbol that represent racial and social injustice. Therefore, they must be removed. This monument must be removed. Anyone who opposes such symbols to be removed should be categorized with the racist sector of America who is not interested in moving this country forward and healing it of racial and social injustice. And if any of those members who I've just categorized should happen to be any of our elected officials, I make it a valid point for myself to address those persons at the polls on voting day.
my view, moved upon a nation to turn away from its wicked ways and to change this land so it could be healed. And in the words of that poem that became a song and became the Negro National Anthem, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far along the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever on this path, we pray. Thank you for being here. We'll take some time to get with the journalists that are here to get them the materials that they need, but thank each and every one of you. For those of you who care, reach out to your commissioners before Tuesday and on Tuesday and on Monday. And then on Monday, show up here and make sure that they know that you want that monument gone. If you don't mind, let's take this side about the South lost the war. Let's walk to the monument and let's take a couple of pictures together so that people can remember this. Share these pictures, share this story. Thank you very much. That the dark past has taught us, sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not a weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over the way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading a path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. Last verse. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. We're shadowed beneath thy hand. May we forever